Hi, this is David Gornoski, host of A Neighbor's Choice and Things Hidden podcast, as well as some of our other programs like Science and You with our chief science advisor, Dr. Yu, and our seed oil survival series that we continue to have great fun unpacking the truth of nutrition. I wanted to give you a quick little message saying we appreciate all the support that we get from our uh, monthly contributors and our one-time donation supporters. And we'd encourage all of you to go to our website, a neighborschoice.com, click on contribute, and make a monthly pledge today, whether it's $1, $5, 15, 20, 50, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter. Just be a part of building this new media project that we've developed to empower and inform, to inspire, to kickstart a scientific renaissance, an anthropological breakthrough and reformation in the church. All these things are possible with your support right now. So make that commitment today and help us keep doing the productions that we have. Thank you.
Canola oil is one of the healthiest cooking oils. When the canola seed arrives at the processing factory, it contains foreign material, mostly plant pieces. The seeds pass by a magnet. It removes any metal that may have fallen in during the journey from field to factory.
What are you eating right now? Are you eating self-hatred? Well, today we're back with our friend who has been just jet setting across the world. Last time we heard from her, she was on her way to her first expedition alongside the Ancestral Health Foundation, and she was headed off to the islands in the Pacific. So we have with us Suzanne Alexander. How you doing?
Hi, David. How are you? It's so great to be back again. It just seems like, a lot of time has passed since I've seen you, yet it was what, maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe. So
Yeah. But you've been all over the place since then, and you're going to head off to more places. So I want to
yes.
do a deep dive with you on some of the experiences and things you learned. But we're not going to get it all done in this episode, but we'll try to get a few of the basic takeaways that you learned. So for folks who are just tuning in for the first time that didn't see your previous episode, where have you been to? Where did you go?
Oh, golly. So Chris Kenobi, my colleague and author with our book, The Ancestral Diet Revolution, we took off around October 23rd, I believe, that we
Okay.
finally went on our way. We flew from Melbourne, Australia, and we flew over to West Papua, Indonesia, to a small area called Jayapura. That was where we first landed there. And from there, when they call that a city, David, but it really isn't. There's not high rise, but you think of New York City or something,
Right.
it's just it has cars. That's basically the difference. And it did have like a mall type thing, but in the mall, in the bottom, they had like this store, and it was kind of like a Walmart type thing.
Yeah.
And so we went in, and our big thing was to go on this research, this Pacific Island research expedition, to go and see if seed oils and processed food have infiltrated these remote areas.
Right.
And of course, the research before I had gone was so extensive, and it sure looked like it was going to have happened. And I just prayed it hadn't, at least definitely in the remote tribes we were going to spend time with, which were way up high in one region that was called Wamena in West Papua, Indonesia, and it was very, very high up. And so we had hoped it hadn't gotten there yet. So anyway, so we went into Jayapura, which is near Wamena, and their stores. I was shocked to see it was exactly like our stores. Looked just like it. Looked just like a Walmart, except didn't have any Walmart on it. But it had all the processed food, all the candy, and it had the aisle of oils. But their oil, and even said, it was so cute. I'll show you pictures of this eventually. It said that their most popular oil in Jayapura was palm oil. And I thought that was
let's see what that looks like.
Okay, I'll show you. All right, so here's that mall I was talking about.
Yeah,
It's quite
okay.
long. It's quite lovely. And here's so you go down the escalator and then this is what you see. There's their wall. And see, I'll scroll through here. I think there it is. Look right here, David. It says bestseller in pop. I thought, oh, I don't think I've ever seen that. And it was just amazing. And of course, these are these big pack, and I've never seen oil sold in these kind of bags.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is what they are, and this is palm oil. Now, palm oil, I've been posting on our social media. This is what it seemed to be throughout our whole expedition. Palm oil was everywhere, which is not. It's okay if it's only about a 10% LA. Very similar to maybe an olive oil if it hasn't been adulterated. But the whole problem, and I've never been a seed oil person. Since I grew up and graduated and left my home from my parents who were using Crisco and those kinds of things that we grew up with, I've never been a seed oil person. I've just been a whole foods natural person. Right. So I wouldn't even recommend this to anyone because again, it doesn't have the fat soluble vitamins, the A, D, and K2. It's not going to work for you. And it's in everything and it adds up over time. So I just really believe we really need to stick with the animal fats. So
just for the audience's sake, palm oil is not a seed oil. It's a fruit oil. It's a tropical oil. It's more saturated than what we would find in our common industrial seed oils that are more widespread around the world. So this is again, from Suzanne's perspective, this is not ideal, but certainly if you're living in a country where that's your only option, I guess, then that's something that would be better than seed oils, you would say, right?
Yes. Yes, it would be, and they had everything. They had all the different varieties. They had the coconut oil, they had the olive oils, they had all the plethora, and they also had the high ones, the safflower, the sunflower, the soybean. They had all of those, but this was the most popular one. Yeah. And so we were pleased to see that at least it was a healthier one. Of all of them, that this was the one they're choosing. But the fact that, David, that we were amazed with, at least it stunned me, because in all the research, it talks about, the Pacific Islands, they use a lot of coconut oil. But guess what? They never have used coconut oil. The only time they use coconut oil is not to cook with, it's for their hair and their skin care. Huh. They do not use coconut oil to cook with at all. They use coconut milk and coconut cream, which many of them
because it's more expensive than the other oils to fry with?
No, I think that they believe that what they're told, what they hear from the United States and the westernized countries, they know it all, is that they think that the oils that are processed mostly are the healthier ones than what they have.
So they're trying to avoid saturated fat in the coconut oil.
They're thinking that that's the healthy, and yet not really, because they mostly cook with coconut milk and coconut cream, which also is going to have the saturated fat. It still will. Mm-hmm. They're very heavy fat. It's a very heavy fat. Right. But you're shocked, David. It was shocking. It really was shocking to see that. Right. But again, it was. So you'll see as we kind of go along in the discussion, what we saw there. But again, so then this is the products that they have, their corn chips and so forth. But notice it's got the palm oil.
Yeah.
Doesn't have what ours would probably say sunflower and safflower. And
that's definitely a lot better than our product, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's something that I wanted to show you. So I took this picture when I was there, and this is what they have. Okay, they've got palm oil in their Pringles can. Okay, so then I go to our store when I come home to see the difference between their Pringles and our Pringles. So again, notice the first item here, and the ingredients is palm oil.
Okay.
Look at ours. This is our can.
For sure.
Corn, cottonseed, soybean, and sunflower.
Yep. So they're definitely living a lot better than we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they were Jayapura. Yeah, they were. It gets a little different as we make our way across the different islands. So that was amazing to see that wow, that they're actually seeing, and their population didn't look. They weren't. I wouldn't say overweight or obese as much as we saw as we moved on into our tour. So they seem to be a healthier community in Jayapura. And then we move on. So again, the prevalent oil in Jayapura was palm oil. Then we move on, and these are the islands that we visited right here. Wow. You can see.
You went to all those places. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is at Jaipur. Now we hop on a little plane, a little tiny plane to get us up to Wamena. So this is our next flight we're going to go to. Here we are getting off the little plane. Now, in every area we went to, they had these massive markets, absolutely gorgeous markets. And a lot of the Dani tribe that we're going to go spend time with, there's kind of like, you've got the Dani tribe that lived traditionally, and you've got the Dani tribe that have kind of become a little more popular, more modernized. And so they're down and they're selling a lot of their goods. They're farming the things that they're growing themselves. And so we went around and we shopped and got some things that we needed because we weren't sure what we were going to be being fed. And so I just wanted for myself, I wanted to make sure that I had because I have to have at least a banana and avocado. I need those for my potassium and magnesium because I don't supplement. So here we are buying those kinds of things.
Yeah.
This was funny. This is Rami, and I'm just going to do a little quick video of this because he's showing us they chew on this thing called the betel or betel nut. Okay. And they think it's very healthy. You're going to hear him talking about how healthy he thinks it is for his teeth. And it turns all their teeth red. And so every time you're talking to them, their teeth look like they're almost like bleeding. And their gums, they're bleeding, but they're chewing this thing and they're spitting. Everywhere you look, there's this red stuff all over the ground because people are spitting.
Is that the men only or the women too?
Everybody does it. It's amazing. So this is so, I'll just do a little bit. It's so funny. Listen. So this is this part of the betel nut you're eating. So Rami doing something. He's got the betel nut. And that, what's that bean? Is that a bean of some kind?
Yeah.
Rami? Does it taste good?
Well, after that, maybe the red. It's called red.
Oh. It makes the color red. Is there nutrients or is there good things for the body in the teeth?
For the teeth.
It's for the teeth, really?
Very old, no possible they broken. Every day I eating my teeth
Are they red?
blood.
And so is it healthy for the teeth to be like that? So do you swallow it too? Do you swallow?
I think you chew it and you spit out the
That's you
hard
spit out.
part.
That's you spit out on the ground.
Oh.
Oh, look at we're seeing it spit. That's what we see on the ground. Oh my golly. So Dani teaching us what we've been doing. That's so amazing, Mom. All right, now let me see your teeth. See the red teeth, Dave? Cool. He's so good about So it was just such an eye opening. That was like one of the first things we experienced when we land. I'm like, oh, but yet everything I researched when I got home, I wanted to find out about this beetle or the betel nut. And there's some research that some say, yes, they think there's some benefits, but others say that they think it's very detrimental to the mouth and the oral cavity. So, and their teeth, Dave, it was not good. Their dental care, it was exactly what we reported in our book, that, that the people in the West Papua region, so when their dental care, you'll see as we see the pictures and so forth, they're missing in the Dani tribe. They're missing a lot of their teeth. Remember, this group is very much like the Tukasinta in Papua New Guinea, where we wrote extensively about them in the book. Is that their health was great. They didn't have cancers. They didn't have macular degeneration. They didn't have a lot of things. They did have arthritis though. But they're 90 to 94% of their diet is sweet potatoes.
Here, in the Juika tribe?
In this tribe, yes. In the Juiki tribe, they're very much like the Tukasintas. Very much. They're all very similar, all in the kind of the same region area. And so, what we're thinking and we're believing is that that they're probably missing the fat soluble vitamins, because they might be eating pork and maybe chicken once a month.
Okay.
Maybe. And with the Dani tribe, the pig is revered. They revere, and their pigs, you'll see that, so you can see them over here walking around over here. See them over here walking around. In matter of fact, the word wam in their language, the Dani language means pig. And notice the name of the place that they live in is called Wamina. So that it's all around the pig. So their pigs are like their family members. So they won't kill their own pigs. So they might, another tribe might say that they'll take their pig, but because it's like their family. They can't kill their pig. So, but they'll have maybe a pig once a month, or a chicken if they can find one. But again, that's the only meat source they're having. The rest of it is sweet potatoes, mostly sweet potatoes, but there's fruit. Oh, David, everywhere you go, there should be no one ever going hungry, because and it was across the board in all the Pacific Islands. There is fruit everywhere. You got the coconuts, the pineapples, the avocados, the papayas,
And they don't eat the fruit as much as the potato?
They do. They do eat the fruit, but the potato, and many of them would say, "Oh, I'll have 2 potatoes in a day, and that's it. I'm full." I'm like, I'd be starving. I would be starving. But and as we go through, you'll see the whole process that the potato is sweet potato is everything for them.
Are they having an active lifestyle over there, or
you'll see what just to make the sweet potatoes, what they have to go through, David. It took them almost an entire morning and afternoon to finally prepare, and get everything ready to cook this in this earthen oven pit. And this is all traditional. It's all, and it was remarkable, David. It was just absolutely remarkable. So this is another video. I don't know, you don't want to see, probably we don't have time for this. So this is when we entered into the village. And this is the part of the community that was there. And I'm trying so hard to abide by social media rules to cover up any nudity, otherwise taken down. So they were just lovely people, a little shy, but they were very welcoming and willing to talk with us. And of course, Rami, our guide, he would interpret everything. And then over here, you can see over here, this right here, this is a mummy. This is a 370-year-old mummy of the Dugam clan. Now they're the Dugam clan, and they celebrate this mummy is Wamantak Mabel. He was their chief in the 18th century. And if you look in this next picture, well, this is their village. This is what you can see.
That's him. Where is he?
I'm going to show you right here. This is the chief, and he's of the Mabel family. So this was his relative. So all the chiefs have to be in that same bloodline, and so this is, and you'll see that some of them dress contemporary, and others don't. And so this is across the board wherever we went. Some of them are just kind of changing, and some of them even have cell phones. And so it's very interesting.
You have cell service out there?
We hardly ever had cell service. So, and they said the same thing. They just they'll have it, but they have to walk to find cell service for them. So we rarely had any cell service whatsoever. But that was the chief. And of course, these are children, and I just loved talking with them and being around them. They were just beautiful, except you could see that some of them, notice the distended stomach, notice this area, this region, that usually shows it's a lack of protein. They're protein deficient. So they're definitely low on nutrients, and we can see if they're just living on, sweet potatoes and not getting enough meat. They need their amino acids.
What's up with the lack of meat?
They choose, this is how they choose to live. They just feel that
it makes me wonder, like in India, ancient India, they developed over time a reverence for the cow.
Yes.
And then the pig is revered here. It makes me wonder if, because of the rivalries and violence that can break out over how delicious those foods are, and so you just kind of put them to the side and say, okay, we're all going to not eat this, because once we start relying on that taste as our as a main mechanism for nutrition, you might get into more conflict because they're not as abundant at first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So but then another thing I found interesting too, in a lot of the Pacific Island regions, I had studied this before I left, but it was interesting because it did come to fruition there as well, is that they talked a lot about the missionaries that had come 100, 200 years ago and had brought their theories and their philosophies. And many of them did bring the ideas of the sweet potato and certain, the plant-based diet.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, if maybe it's also stemming from a lot of this as well, the beliefs that were taught to them, because now many of them have become Christians.
Do they have enough land to have enough meat for everybody? that they're able to use to herd or
Oh,
whatever?
if they wanted to, they're wait till you see the land.
Okay.
It's as far as there's no people.
And
They've
they're
got
not,
so
I'm just
much.
saying, I don't know what the rules are. They like roped
Yeah.
off to a certain part of the land they can't go past because the government.
No,
Okay.
and their crops, I mean, everywhere you see is land and land of their crops, of their sweet potatoes. I mean,
Okay.
just so much. They really could. And there's just pigs wandering everywhere. Pigs and dogs. You have to, as we're driving along with our driver that was taking us places, we had to stop because there's just pigs crossing the road in the wild. And it's just like there's pigs everywhere. So they're definitely plenty.
There's not a shortage of pigs.
No. And dogs, they're everywhere. It was like, wow. So it's amazing.
What do they think is sacred? What did they tell you was sacred about the pig? Why did they
They
call
didn't
it
even
sacred?
say, they just said, the pig is so important to us. I'm thinking,
Do they think it's a god, or does it go
no,
back to
no,
No?
but I think they're just special to them. And yet they'll eat them. They will definitely eat them, but it can't be their pig because it's like a family.
Does it they only eat wild pig, or do they eat their neighbor's pig?
If the neighbor wanted to swap, but they won't eat theirs because they've bonded with it. I believe that's what the
Okay.
whole point is.
Okay.
And here we are. This is not, of course, I've always wanted, I would teach this to my students as well about how we came to have salt because we didn't have stores, so where do we get salt from? And usually it was through the process of evaporation or just using the water from the oceans or wherever the water we had. Well, this was unbelievably ingenious when I asked them and I said, could you show me how and they said, we will show you. So we had to climb this huge mountain. And this is where Chris got injured his already injured knee, which didn't help us at all. I felt so awful. So this is towards the top, and we would take some breaks so Chris's knee wouldn't get too much more inflamed than it already was. And so these are some of the Dani people that were with us. And then you'll see when we go over here. Now, here is a Dani woman. She carried with her up this mountain. She's carried this
She was with your
stalk.
expedition, or she was just doing her own thing?
She came along with us because she was going to be the one that volunteered to help to show us how they collect salt.
Did she dress like that normally, or did she put on a traditional attire for you?
This is how they dress.
Okay.
So a lot of them have their traditional, the older people kind of wear the older, but the younger ones really don't.
And this is considered trad here. This is traditional.
This is traditional.
Okay.
And so what she's got is this is a bag that's hanging off of her head. And in this bag, they'll carry things. So I'm gonna go back to this one. Hold on, let me go back. So this is a stalk off of a banana tree. Okay. And so what she's doing, she has a plain old stick in her hand and she's just scraping it and she's removing the fibers from the outside of each of the layers of the stalk of this banana stem. And that, to me, what they're trying to explain to me when we were there is that it's removing the fiber, which is allowing it to become more porous and more willing to cellularly accept into its cell walls the salt from the spring. So so she does this and she peels it all apart. Then she goes over here. If you look at this picture here, she's taken stripped them into different layers. And now she's going to twist and turn. And I'm at the point of saying, look, I got to join in with this. So I hop in the spring with her. And of course, it's salt water. And we're twisting and we're turning and we do this for like a half an hour. And it allows, it's like pickling it, literally like pickling the stalk of the banana stem. And then they bring it all out and then they wrap it into a ball, all of it into a ball. And then she takes it and puts it in her bag and that's not hanging from her head. And then when we get to the bottom of the mountain, they dry it. Okay. And then they can break it off into pieces whenever they want to use it and add it to their food and their cooking, or they can just eat a piece of it. So she had me try some of it and to taste the water. It was salty. It wasn't extremely salty, but it was what they needed. But another fascinating takeaway from this was across the board in the Pacific Islands, they rarely use spices. They really don't do a lot of salt. They just eat food because they believe everything has what it needs already in their food. And I will say, David, their food is so different from our food. Their fruit, the taste of everything is totally, totally different. And very incredibly, I'm not a good sleeper. I've not ever been a good sleeper. And especially over the past 30 years. And when I was there, I actually was sleeping for 5 hours straight, which is huge for me. Normally I do 2 hours if I'm lucky. And I was dreaming. I hadn't dreamt it so long. And so Chris and I were talking about it. And I said, I really believe it's because they are so heavy in their minerals. in the food
Yeah.
that we were eating, that we were we're so depleted, even though I eat all organic food. And I mean,
So they
I'm
may be vitamin deficient because of the lack of meat, but they're not mineral deficient. Is that what you're saying?
absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I think they're so healthy, except for their teeth, and they have a little bit of the arthritis going and stuff. But they don't have chronic disease. Number one, if you're living traditionally, which most of these people are, they aren't getting the seed oils, they're not getting processed food, which is so toxic to our
How many
body.
calories are they consuming a day? Did you get an estimation?
It was so hard because it was always a sweet potato, you know, and I just kept thinking I would be starving on this. I mean, I eat a lot of calories. I eat a lot of food during the day.
Yeah.
And I will say that the time I was with the Dani Tribe, and we stayed in a lodge, it was right near them. And everyone who worked at the lodge, the reason why I picked this place to stay in was because everyone who worked there, the owner of it, only hires the Dani people because he wants to help the people to
Yeah.
have a better life. And so the chef was a Dani tribesman,
Yeah.
and he knew I had celiac disease and my other digestive issues, and so he was very careful with my food, and it was so beautifully prepared.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of meat. It was just they gave me like a little bit of chicken, just a little tiny piece, and I eat like, you know, I eat at least 12 ounces a day, and it was just a little piece, and the rest of it was like either boiled potatoes or boiled white pumpkin. It
Did
was
you
or
bring any bison pemmican to substitute?
no, and I kept saying to Chris, I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. But I mean, but I still, because they gave me so much fruit, they would just go out and pick the fruit right off the tree, you know, and it was just so amazing. The feeling was like, wow. I mean, it was just, I can't tell you what it was doing for my body. Just,
So you think the fruit or the sweet potatoes are causing the dental issues they're having?
I think it could, I don't see, I think it's a little bit, and they don't brush their teeth at all. You know, and I know that people will, because I know that when I go to Africa coming up, I know that many of them have a twig that they use, and like the Maasai and so forth. I can't wait to live their life. Oh my gosh, David, it's me so excited. And they actually will do that every day. They're always cleaning. I asked these people specifically, you know, do you brush your teeth? No, no, we just chew the betel nut.
Yeah.
And I'm
Did
like,
you ever
oh.
show them videos of the Maasai?
No, no, we couldn't, I couldn't hardly, I really didn't have any service to show them anything. My phone was just like, I would run out of it was just nothing was working, but they didn't really seem to care about those things to them. It was kind of like, you know, it was not important to them. Just getting their next meal. And those were kind of the things that they were thinking
What was
about.
their religion? Did they tell you? Or is it tradition?
Christianity. Most of them are Christians.
Huh.
Yeah. And they've got their churches and stuff.
Did you see any cargo cults over there?
No, I didn't, that kind of thing, but it was mostly Christian based. It was really quite lovely, quite lovely. And so then it was interesting, David. So on our way going up, we see the younger crowd coming down. You can see they're dressed contemporarily. And look they never wear shoes. Never had a shoe on the entire time we were there. And this was such a rocky, you know, it was just such an intense, and I had my barefoot shoes on thinking, you know, mine's only like a little, like 1.8 millimeter thin skin of moose hide, and thinking,
Right.
look at me. They were barefoot and nothing bothered them a bit. Nothing. But they smoke, David. They smoke so much. It was, and we had heard that they do that they do smoke, but, and I asked Rami, I said, do they roll their own? Do they have their own tobacco? And they do. And he showed me their tobacco leaves and so forth. The older people will roll their own, but the younger people will go to these stores, which I'll show you it soon. I called them the shack. They're like every couple of miles, because the Dani tribe, they didn't have cars. They walk everywhere. And so conveniently, they put these little stores up, and in these stores, the tourists can stop and can buy candy for them. They can buy cigarettes for them. They can buy and they do have seed oils there.
Wow.
And so we saw these young boys coming down from the salt spring carrying, notice it's an oil bottle. And this is what they had the salt spring water in. So I thought, is this oil that they're using? Or did they go to a store and ask if they have any old containers that they could use? I don't know, but it's speculation. So we're just wondering, you can see on the slide, it says, are seed oils infiltrating the Dani people?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They brought oil with them? Why did they bring oil with them?
This was just empty containers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
To bring back the salt water.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So now we're going to a different, so on the next day, now Chris couldn't go with me because
this is all near that big city that you started at, right? Or
No, we had to fly to get to this. This is a whole different area. This is
Okay.
still in Wamena, but it was still in West Papua, Indonesia. We're still in Indonesia. Okay. And so we're way up high in the mountains. You'll see the scenery. It's absolutely spectacular. So this is a different Dani tribe. And I'm going solo this day because Chris was laid up with his knee. So I go again with Rami, and we're entering this smaller village. And here we are. So over here, you can see this village over here. And this is inside their kitchen. So this is what the kitchen looks like. Inside, there's just a fire pit, but it's got beautiful fresh grass on the ground and so forth. And these are some of the women.
Yeah.
And they dress very scantily, scantily clad.
Yeah.
And so now here we are. So they're showing me how they're going to go to their gardens and they're going to harvest some sweet potatoes. So they're going to show me how they prepare sweet potatoes. So this is early in the morning. And so they have a stick. This is all they have, is just a stick to dig up their sweet potatoes. And they have a plethora of different colors and kinds of sweet potatoes. And then we walk down the hill and there's like this other spring, and they wash the potatoes in them right there. And then we come back and we go back to the village. We drop off the potatoes. And now we have to go back down this hill. David, look at this. Look at the land. There's no people anywhere as far as you can see.
Yeah.
Nothing but land, land, land. And this is where they live. It was just breathtaking. So we go way down the bottom of this hill, and they're going to start to collect. And I didn't know what we were doing, collecting all of these branches and twigs and greens and dried things. And I'm thinking, oh, must be for the fire, I guess. So they get all of these items, and look at this. Look at what they have on their heads. Look what these women are carrying on their heads. It was just, and so this is all just to make their sweet potatoes. So this is what their day is like. So they're very active. They are active when it comes to food preparation and to finding
every day they're doing this.
This is what they have to do.
7 days a week. Do they rest?
No, you'll see. Sundays are, and I will say that usually Sundays in many of the places, everything comes to a complete screeching halt. In some of the Pacific Islands, it would basically be almost like outlawed if you're going to be doing something on a Sunday. They take it very, very
because of the reverence for their Christian faith.
Absolutely,
Wow,
absolutely.
that's cool.
It was beautiful, beautiful. So here they are. They're preparing two pits. One pit, which is this that you see on this page, they're preparing the pit that's going to basically cook the stones that are going to basically steam and cook the potatoes. So they're going to make this blazing fire, which is going to now really heat up these stones, massive amounts of stones. So that took so long to get that going. Then when that's going, they get that going, we go out, and because I'm there, this is this man right here. Okay. And he is wearing, I should have talked about the men wear what's called what do they call it? Oh, I forgot the name of it now. Kitoga or something like that. It'll come to me. And it's just like a gourd that they put over their private area. And it has two strings that comes around and holds it up. That's all they wear. Now it looks like he has pants on, but what he's taken is mud, and he put that on, and that's either for tribe when they're going to go to war, they do that, or if they think there's a celebration. And they felt, because I was there that day, that it was a celebration. And so he wanted to go out and get what's called the pandan fruit, or red fruit, because he wanted to have that with the sweet potato meal that they were going to make for me.
Wow.
And this, just to try to harvest this, was something else. And look over here by my fingers. I didn't see that. I almost slipped my hand. Look at this. Look at the teeth. It's just like a saw.
Huh.
And here's the pandan fruit up here. It was amazing, just really amazing.
And what does that taste like?
I'll tell you when we get to see the picture. It was interesting, David. So here, I thought this is a beautiful picture over here where she's blowing to get the spark going, to get the fire going. Here they finally got the fire going. And now over here, so this is the pit again that's going to cook the stones.
Yeah.
You got the stones. Now this is called the earthen pit oven. And this is how they cook. And this is across the board in all the islands. If you're truly living traditionally, ancestrally, this is how you cook your meals. So they're lining this hole in the ground with all of these greens that are very, very green. There's nothing dry. And then I thought, I'm going to help doing all this. I just want to help them. And then after they get all lined and they get it all piled up with all these different greens, he's going to cut up the pandan fruit. They take out, I'm thinking we're going to eat the inside. No, they throw out all the inside. It's just the outside seeds that they're looking for, but they aren't even going to eat those. You'll see what happens. Then they take the hot stones over here, and look at this. They've taken sticks and branches, and they've cut it to make it like a grasping tool. Isn't that amazing? And so they're bringing these hot, fiery, scorching stones, and they're lining the pit. Then they there's like hundreds of sweet potatoes. So what I'm thinking, David, is so that they don't have to do this, they want to be able to feed their village. So this might maybe last maybe 2 or 3 days, so they don't have to do it every day. So if they're all eating 2 or 3 of these sweet potatoes, that's probably enough, I'm thinking, for maybe 2 days for the village, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but if they had to do this every day, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work. So they aren't sedentary, is what people might be thinking. And so then they put more stones on top of that. And then they put green leaves on top of that. And then they put the pandan fruit on top of that. And then they take all of the grass that we put in the bottom of and we fold it up over the top of it. And it makes like this big dome over it. Like it's like steaming everything. It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I was like, oh my God. I said, this is so beautiful. And they were laughing at me because I'm like singing and dancing. Oh my God. And then they put more stones on top of it just to make sure it's all stable. And then they go, my Rami's translator, he goes, okay, now they want you to go and sit around the fire in the kitchen. And they said, and they've got sweet potatoes cooking over there that we're going to eat while we're waiting for the other sweet potatoes. I mean, sweet potato. I go, oh, all right, because I'm starting to get hungry anyway. So, so we go into the kitchen, and you can see, look at this. There's a sweet potato laying right here. They put it right in the fire with the skin still on. And so I'm sitting there, and then they take their sweet potatoes out. And of course, they're smoking the whole time that we're in there as well. They're all smoking at the same time. And I'm coughing, David. And this is another thing that was amazing. I'm coughing away.
You didn't take a toke of the peace pipe?
No, not for me. No. And so I'm coughing. They never coughed once. And even when we were climbing the mountain to go to the salt spring, they were smoking. All of them were smoking, and they weren't wheezing. They were out of breath. I was astonished how they were so fit, and yet, and even lung-wise.
Well, there's some evidence that smoking has been scapegoated for lung cancer when it was seed oils and some other stuff.
I'm telling you, it makes you question everything that you know when you see these people. I'm like, it doesn't make sense.
It's more of I've heard it's more of the chemicals and the additives and all that stuff that they add in the cigarette.
Absolutely.
Than it is the actual tobacco smoke itself.
And that's why I think when they're
is there any signs of lung cancer that they even know what that is over there? I mean,
and I asked any of them, I said, because they don't go to the doctors, really. They really don't. And of course, not one of them wears glasses, but again, are they reading a lot? I don't know, but I was amazed, and I didn't see any kind of, the only degeneration, the only thing that really I saw that was their dental care. Their teeth were just really, if they had teeth, they were really missing a lot of the teeth. And they're also, I think that when we get to one of my favorite tribes that we were also, I love them all, but the healthiest of them, you'll see was a big difference. One, this tribe smokes heavily. Two, yes, they don't eat hardly any meat. So they're getting mostly sweet potatoes. And I think it's because they're missing fat soluble vitamins, and they're aging much rapidly compared to the other tribe that you'll see who eats about 50% of their diet is fish and chicken. So there's a big difference between the two. And in terms of how fit they are, they just seem to be very frail as they aged, very, very frail. And yet, there was a man there that to me, he looked like he was close to 100. And none of them know their ages because they don't keep records of their birth. They just kind of guesstimate. And there was one man that he looked like he was close to 100, but very frail.
Do they celebrate the Christmas or anything if they're Christians?
Yes, because when you go to the stores, they've got Christmas music playing.
Well, how do they know? So that's the only time they know it's Christmas is when the decorations come out in the store?
I'm thinking. But see, this is way up and high in the tribes now. I don't know if they actually do. When we were down in Jayapura, which is more like the city, that's where people were celebrating. Here, there's no sign of what they're.
But they're still saying they're Christian. I'm just curious. That's
right. And there are churches around. There are churches and so forth around. So I'm thinking that's how they know.
Okay, yeah.
You'll see very small buildings with the cross.
So that's kind of like their contact with the universal part of the world.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
That's so cool.
It was really beautiful to see. I was like, oh, yeah. And so here they are. Now, this is what they do with the pandan fruit. So it's been cooked and steamed. Now they strip all the seeds right here. They strip it, and all they do is they wring it out, and you can see this juice drips into their little man-made plate from a banana leaf. Okay. And so then they asked me, try it. They try it. And I tried it and I was like, oh, because I was thinking it's me sweet. It's almost bitter. It's almost bitter, but it's extremely high in antioxidants and phytonutrients. It's really, I mean, it really is very high. So what I did is I took, so one of the other men in the tribe, he was breaking up. They were always waiting on me. It was so beautiful. The men were very, very wanting to take care of me. But at one point I was standing there, David, and I felt something in the back of my hair. I didn't know if I had a bug or something. And I turned and it was this man. And I go, is everything okay? He goes, he's trying to tell me there's something in my hair. And so Rami's saying, he says he's trying to get something out of your hair and he's fixing it. I said, oh, thank you. They're very cute. So then he takes this big, huge, massive sweet potato and he breaks it for me. And so here we are, he's sharing it with me. Then he takes a piece of the pandan skin once they've taken the seeds off, and he's telling me to try to eat it. But I wasn't sure what to do with it. So I was watching the other women and they were just chewing on it. And then they spit out, because it was very, very fibrous, very fibrous. I thought, oh, I'll never be able to swallow this. And so I just did the same thing. And it was still, again, very bitter. But then I took the sweet potato that I had here in my hand and I dipped it into the pandan fruit liquid. And it was quite a lovely combination. So I thought, oh, this is different, And so
was that what they were doing, or was just you?
I just thought I would do it.
You were just freestyling.
They're just kind
You
of
tried to turn that place into a Carrabba's, weren't you? You were trying to dip stuff.
They were just kind of drinking it. But it was such a feast, but they call this like a feast for them. And I was like, well, I could have eaten all those sweet potatoes. I was so hungry, It was just I was so honored, dude. I was so honored to be there. I just could not.
You would have, did they allow you to have seconds and thirds or no?
Anything you wanted. I could have kept eating, but I just felt it was for their village. I didn't want to take their food, And here's one of them taking, he's going to start drinking it. So he's trying to show me what he's going to do with it. And then the children were starting to come in. And so they've got their dogs everywhere. And of course, I just wanted to go over to where the banana tree, I just wanted to go and there's a banana tree. I can just pick as many bananas I want. I can't believe this. And it was just remarkable. And they don't eat their bananas. They don't wait till it gets yellow. They really, they don't like them like sweet. It's totally.
They don't have a sweet tooth, huh? They have more of a, they
have
like the starch.
Everything is very neutral tasting because they don't put anything on anything.
Yeah.
It's not about.
So when when they have a candy bar at the store, do they get interested in that, or it's like repulsive?
Well, and this is what I was afraid of, and I even talked to them about this, that the tourists are bringing them.
Yeah.
And the candy, and I think that's making them get the sweet tooth thing for saying, oh, and so now I'm wondering, is this also impacting the health of their teeth as well? But again, when we go back, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were saying the same thing in the research that we were doing, is that they were known to have poor teeth, poor dentition. This is the little store that I'm telling you about. They're all over the place, these little shacks. You can't go in. See the fencing right here? So this woman stands behind it, and then there's this little opening here, and you tell her what you want, and then she slides it to you. But you can't go in and pick out what you want. Cannot go in. So that's that little shack. And they're in all of the Pacific Islands, all these little stores way out where the remote
Did
people.
she price them higher than the grocery store?
She's
got a market. She's got a corner on the market.
It makes you wonder.
Did she?
Did you wonder? Because I didn't know, because I didn't go shopping. I was just like, I had to see where are they getting these things from? And so this is where it was. So again, when we visited the small grocery store, we went to a store in Wamina, which was, down from where the tribe lives. And again, what was their oil? It was the palm oil again. So in that whole region of West Papua, Indonesia, palm oil was the oil of choice.
Did the tribe use palm oil?
We didn't know. We asked them, and I think the ones who live extremely traditional do not. But I'm thinking it's about 10% infiltration that they're using processed food.
What would they use it for? To fry the sweet potato or what?
No. I think they're doing other things. I think that they're eating. I think mostly they're not buying the oil. I think they're just buying the already packaged food, like in that little shack. So it's gonna be the potato chips. And also you'll see as we go along, they all eat a lot of tinned fish. Even those areas that live on the ocean, they're buying tinned fish. And guess what the tinned fish is packed in?
Oil, yeah.
And
Cottonseed oil.
soybean. A lot of them were.
Soybean oil.
And I was like, oh my golly, this is what it is, you know? And so, because Chris hadn't thought about that because he doesn't eat tinned fish, but I eat sardines. And I always buy it in spring water.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know, I keep hearing them talking about canned fish. I've got to see what they're selling here.
Yeah.
And you'll see as we go along, the story unveils. But I thought this was kind of funny. When we got to the airport, it says, do not spit a bittle on the floor. Because if you think about it, your whole airport would be loaded with all the red from the bittle nut. So here we go next. Now we're going to fly from Jayapura. This is where it was intense. We had to go from Wamena to Jayapura, fly from Jayapura to Makassar, from Makassar to Bali, from Bali to Brisbane, and then from Brisbane to Honiara. And that was all within 36 hours.
Yeah.
It was exhausting. It was exhausting.
Yeah. Too bad you couldn't take a little boat.
Well, and that's what Chris said. We'd probably been faster, but to find flights when I was organizing this, to find flights to get to some of these islands was unbelievable because there's just not a lot of planes flying to a lot of these places. So here we are. When we get off. This is what we arrive. I go, I was like, oh. So I couldn't believe it. I just was like in cloud nine. Look how beautiful they are. Again, it was just, and I was sad to leave the Dani tribe. I truly was sad. They were very gracious and very kind. I just loved every moment with all the tribes. They were just beautiful.
Yeah.
But here we go, and we go to their stores. So these in Honiara, in the Solomon Islands, their stores that you find all over the place are called the bulk shop. And they're just all over the place. And yes, they do. This is their small little wall of oils. And when we went to I went to see what their fast food serves. Okay. And this was the Taste and Traditions, this is called. And I asked for some eggs and some ground beef with nothing on it. And they did put something on it because I didn't feel well at all after I got done eating. I kept saying to Chris, there's something on this. I don't know. So I went over and I started asking the women, you know, could you show me what you cook in? And so the owner was there and he came right over and was getting a little concerned. What was I asking? What was I asking? I said, I just want to know, you know, what oil do you cook with? You know, smiling. And they brought this out. This is sunflower. No, the soybean. This was soybean oil. This was soybean.
So that's eggs and meat with the sunflower.
Yeah, and so it must have had sunflower and it had some spices that it had put on it. And I can't handle spices because I'm celiac. And often the spices, if you get it from a store, are they've been cross-contaminated with gluten. And so I just didn't feel well after that. So then this is their market in here in Honiara, massive, just again, massive of all fresh produce, and nothing in these regions has any glyphosate, no chemicals, no fertilizers. It is all better than organic. And I think that's why it's so loaded with the minerals. You know, their soil is not deplete, and they do a lot of slash and burn where they'll take their crops and they'll burn it and they turn the ash back into the soil, or they just throw it. You know, they were showing us how they just throw their banana peels, all their fruit and things just out to rot and decay, and out in their fields, and it's just giving back the nutrients. It's really beautiful. It's like going back 100 years, how they grow things. It was beautiful, just beautiful. And of course, for me, not having the EMFs and the cell towers everywhere was amazing because I'm so electromagnetic sensitive. It's and I think that was also helping me to sleep better as well. Again, we went to another bulk store, and this is the oil that we were seeing.
That palm oil, or
it was the palm oil. It was the palm oil again here. But however, we did see that a lot of the processed food that they had, it wasn't as pure what we saw in Jayapura. Their processed food here had the canola, the soybean, and the corn, etc. That's what it had in it. So this one was not as pristine. And we did notice that the obesity was much higher in this area, in this region, much higher. Yeah. And of course, the fast food restaurants are still using soybean oil very much like we do. So now we go from Samoa. Now we're going to go to Samoa. So we're going to go from Honiara, fly to Brisbane in Australia, and then we go over here to Samoa. That wasn't too bad. It was like, oh. Yeah. So now we enter into the airport here. And again, we go to another massive market. It's absolutely beautiful. I was in awe. And their bananas, of course, are everywhere. They've got 4 different kinds of bananas, and some of them are so wide, they're so huge, and they cook them as if they're potatoes. Those they cook as if it's a potato. And I thought, I'd never even heard of this. I had learned so much. So then we go and spend a day with a traditional living Samoan man, and his name is Livingston. He's about 82 years old. And their kitchen, none of them have indoor kitchens if you're living traditionally. Everything is cooked outside in either an earthen pit or an open pit. And he had just open like fire pit. He had inside this building over here. This was his outdoor kitchen. So inside, all they have is like a counter with a sink. There's nothing with, all food preparation done. And his whole backyard, this whole backyard is nothing but fruits and vegetables. It's all that he grows, all better than organic. And so here's the fire pit that they cook on. And I said, oh, what are you making here? He said, through our translator, Poe, who is our translator, he said he went freshly this morning down to the ocean and he caught a sea eel. Oh, we're having sea eel. I thought, oh, okay. And these are taro leaves, and they cook everything in fresh coconut milk that they made themselves.
That was good.
It was just beautiful. This is, we wrote about this in the book as well. This right here is breadfruit.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never had it. I was like, oh my goodness. And these are the bananas that they're going to cook. And so again, it's not really, they're still very hard.
What are they doing? Brining it or something? Or
they're cooking it and they're boiling it in coconut milk. Again, everything's coconut milk. And over here, the neighbor had caught or killed a dove in his yard. That's their chicken.
Wow.
So they don't have chicken. And so there's a bird that they catch in their backyard. And so he brought that over for us to have. And I thought, how thoughtful that everyone's kind of putting something in, towards our meal. And so here we are, they're showing us how they make their plates out of the different leaves and the foliage and so forth. I thought it was so, it was just, I was in awe how people live.
They don't got to make that plate every day, do they? Or
No, but I think they're just showing us what they would have done traditionally back in the day. And here they presented us with fresh coconut water, which I never had before. It was just quite lovely. And then here they're showing us how they're going to make coconut milk. So he has this bench here, and this bench, and he's going to scrape the meat on the inside of the coconut, the older coconut. It has to be the older coconut. And then they take the scrapings and they have this, like, it's almost like skin from a plant that they have. And you can buy these actually in the store, but they don't. They just take it from their trees in their backyard. And then he puts it all into a ball, and he squeezes it, and they make the coconut
So
milk.
you fill the skin off. You can see the skin.
Yeah.
Fill it like this.
And it's what kind
Yeah.
of tree?
It's called Vaipa.
Remember we
Yeah,
saw that in
we
the
saw
grocery
it.
store?
The yellow one. So yeah, you just put it and make it up like this. Mix it all up. Once it's ready, so he's gonna show you.
And watch it. I was shocked to see how milk comes right out of it. It looks like there's nothing there. Look at this.
He's gonna make the coconut cream with this special skin.
God.
Isn't that amazing?
This is how coconut cream is made.
It's a huge mechanical process to do this,
Yeah.
like on a scale, right?
Yeah, right.
Isn't it beautiful?
Traditionally, ancestrally. Look at this.
Oh.
Norman, thank you for sharing such wisdom.
So the leftover from the coconut milk, you can use it to feed the pigs.
So if you
Really?
had- So if you had
The
pigs,
meat?
you could throw all that leftover.
The meat
pigs.
one.
Anything is left.
Isn't it neat? Isn't it just amazing?
Yeah.
I thought that was so, and then, so, oh, go back here. And so then we go into the meal. And so this is what we had on our plate. So we had, over here, we had our fresh coconut water. Then they made us this thing called cocoa Samoa. And what they do is they grow their own cocoa beans in their backyards. And they take the beans and they crack them, they put them open, and they put them in hot water. And like a tea, but it tastes almost to me, because I don't really have chocolate out, I'm allergic to it. I was gonna try it there. It tasted like a tea of chocolate. So almost like a chocolate milk, but very, very mild, but quite lovely.
Cool.
So that was everyone, they love that there. Then they had breadfruit and the bananas, again, cooked in the coconut milk. Then they had the taro leaves cooked in coconut milk. Over here, we've got the open fire cooked dove.
Man, this is my kind of place. Yeah.
And then they had the fresh caught sea eel cooked in homemade coconut milk. Notice everything's in coconut milk, not 1 ounce of seed oil.
So
It's
lots of
all-
saturated fat, good,
A
healthy
lot of-
saturated
And
fat.
that's what I'm saying. So they aren't afraid of saturated fat at all. So
Yeah.
that's why I was shocked. Why are they choosing palm? Now we know palm oil, that, in the region of Indonesia, that they grow it all over that region and so forth. But it was odd. I thought it was very odd that they're thinking that, is it because they're thinking that the seed oils are heart healthy? I don't know. And yet it's still a saturated
Here,
fat.
they're not using any oils at all.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. And they all said that they were saying that we prefer coconut milk.
Yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. And when you're done, they brought us over a bowl, and this is how you wash your hands when you're done. It was so traditional. I was like, oh, I can get used to this. I love this, you know? And so again, we found that the most prevalent oil in Samoa was palm oil. However, soybean oil is also used heavily. A great deal of the tinned fish that we looked at, I kept saying to Chris, it's the fish oil. I tell you, it's what's they're packed in because they're all eating it. It was soybean oil. I was
Yeah.
shocked. So I think
So
that's where
are those guys that you had that meal with, are they in that world and they're eating regular
Yes.
restaurant food and stuff
I
Yeah.
asked, and they said that they do go to fast food and they do buy the tinned fish. And they didn't know. They never thought about looking at what was packed in.
Yeah. Did you, when all these places, did you tell them about seed oils when they?
Oh, we were always preaching. I was always saying, no, go back to the way you used to live. You were healthy back, you know. So they were very appreciative. They were very, very appreciative of what the knowledge we were sharing. Really appreciative. Yeah. But I still can't believe that they weren't even using coconut oil when we've been led to believe that was going to be what they're using because they've got coconuts everywhere. No.
Yeah.
So now we go from Samoa, we fly to Fiji, and then we fly to Vanuatu. This was an amazing stop. So here we go to see this family. There's a clan of about 27 of them living, and they're all a family. So we call it a clan. They're all related. And they live here in Vanuatu. And this is one of their warriors. And his name is Yevi, Yevi. And he's walking barefoot on hot stone coals. And Chris, I was kind of questioning whether they really were hot. And they took water and poured it on. It was, okay, they're hot. Amazing how strong they are. Just so amazing. And they're aging much more gracefully than what I saw in the Dani tribe.
Yeah.
You know, just beautiful. Their skin wasn't, getting wrinkled and sagging and so forth. They're just beautiful. The men were very toned. Here we are with some of them there. Now, this is interesting. This is again Yevi. And I kept asking about their teeth because their teeth were beautiful. And I said, do you brush your teeth? What do you use to brush your teeth? They're beautiful. So he's, oh, hold on. So watch what he says.
That's how we brush our teeth in the village, asking the skins of a coconut. When the tea comes,
Oh my golly.
oh, wow.
Oh,
Isn't that remarkable?
this is unbelievable. Wow. Look at that.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's how we brush our teeth. Oh,
Remarkable.
so we chewing kava, chewing sugarcane. It helps us a lot.
Yeah. Do you eat the sugar cane
Yeah.
regularly?
Yeah.
How much? How often or how much?
Sometimes when you go gardening, then you get thirsty.
Yeah.
You chew sugarcane.
You eat it.
Yeah, you chew.
Chew it.
You suck the juice.
Yeah.
Then you just throw the waste.
Do you do that? You're regularly, like a couple of times a day, once a day, or?
Maybe sometimes if you go to the garden today, tomorrow, after tomorrow, then I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe just every couple of days or?
Couple of days.
Okay. Okay.
Isn't
They
that
wear
amazing?
that outfit all the time, or do they put that on when you guys come?
It looked to me like this is how, it looked to me like this is how they
Yeah.
are all the time,
So
and
they
they're
didn't,
barefoot.
you didn't see them all get into a SUV afterwards and with the
No,
seats and
no,
everything.
not
So
at all.
That was fun.
Not at all. This is, I believe,
Yeah.
it was very, very traditional looking in this.
So that coconut, right?
Yeah. So that was a
So
coconut.
they're chewing the coconut fiber.
Yeah, he'd peel and that coconut fiber before you get to the main. But the fact of biting in, I thought he's got
Yeah.
great gum, his
Yeah.
amazing gingival tissue going on inside
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It was just remarkable. And then,
That's
hold on.
how
I gotta get to this next one. But we found in Vanuatu, this is what was so amazing because we didn't see a lot of obesity throughout the whole area that we were living. They were very, very fit, even into the community where it wasn't so rural. And we found that the prevalent seed oil, of course, was palm, but we were so pleased that when we went to see their fish, their tinned fish, they had the water in the spring water. Very few were loaded with the others. So you could just see it was a much more healthy, conscientious
Yeah.
community.
Are they like a
Under-
wealthier area than the other areas?
They
or-
looked very similar to what others, but they actually had you could see pastures where there were cows. And they're known to they actually send their meat to some of the other Pacific islands. So like in Honiara, the meat we were eating in Honiara was from Vanuatu.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. So you could see it was a much more meat-based region. And yet he said, we asked him, I said, what's your diet consist of? And he said, maybe in his broken speech, he said, maybe 50% fish and chicken. He says, because the fish is right, we can get the fish right down here. We don't go to the store, we just can get ourselves. He said the rest would be either taro. They don't do the sweet potato there. They do taro or cassava. And they're both very similar.
Why don't they like sweet potatoes? They don't grow well over there, or just don't?
It was just their preference in this area is, but I think they still have them, but theirs was more taro.
What was their religion? Were they traditional or were they
still
Christian?
Christianity is coming into the region. It's really across Pacific Islands Christianity, about 80%, I believe.
Huh. Interesting.
And
do you know what type of Christianity they're with?
There was Catholic, there was Methodist, we saw Lutheran, we saw different kinds of churches. There was all different kinds. But they said about 80% would be that. Yeah. And so it was really interesting that I kept saying to myself, how can they be consuming so many oxalates, such a high oxalate diet? And so the only thing I can surmise, David, is do they have the anaerobic bacterium that's called I always get this wrong, Oxalobacter formigens, I think this is called Oxalobacter formigens, and some call OF. And because that's known to degrade oxalates in the body. And there was a time, I researched this, there was a time where we had a plethora of it. And now—
when did we lose it?
I would say, to me, it looks in research, it's looking like right around the time that we started getting a whole bunch of, guess what was introduced into our environment?
Seed oils.
No.
What, pesticides?
Pesticides.
So what, the pesticides, what's the mechanism you're suggesting might be?
I'm wondering, because we're ingesting it, we're breathing it in constantly. Okay. Is that killing off our gut microbiome? And yet, Chris, we both had ourselves tested. I have 0. I have none. Chris has a ton. He has a ton of oxalobacter formigens.
So he does well with oxalates or no?
No, he doesn't.
That doesn't make any sense then.
So he doesn't know. We're totally baffled on the whole thing. We don't know. But maybe do they have even more than we're thinking is a lot?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I want to really see if I can really watch carefully when I get to Africa, because some of the tribes are heavy into the sweet potato thing. And so I'm going to kind of see if there's a difference in what their environment. I know there's just so much to look at, so much to study. It's amazing. So I just wonder, it doesn't seem to be bothering them. Then we were supposed to go to Tana, which I had planned. I mapped it out, and there was a phenomenal tribe that lives there, but our flight was canceled, and it had been canceled all week long. So they said, don't plan on getting there. I was bummed out, so we didn't go. So the next day we flew to Fiji, which is our last island. And this was shocking when I found there as well. But in Samoa, I will say that the obesity it's one of the highest now rates of obesity in the world in Samoa, which used to be pristine. And we did see such a high level of soybean oil used throughout everything there. It was a lot.
Do you think that there is a genetic component to why they tend to be more obesogenic in relationship to their seed oil consumption like Americans?
There is a theory. It's called the thrifty gene.
Okay.
And they feel that, is it possible that some of these traditional living people may have this, what they're calling the thrifty gene, where they cannot handle the consumption of any kind of these seed oils? However, here's my theory on it. Those of us who are Americans, have, since the start of it in the 1920s, 1930s, when it really started becoming big, our ancestors, our grandparents, our great grandparents, they all were starting to slowly get it into their diet, their system. And it wasn't just, they were inundated. These people, all of a sudden, bam, it's there. They've got McDonald's, they've got Burger King, they've got all of these, it's just thrown at them. So they can't slowly acclimate to it. They've just been inundated. I don't know. Again, nobody knows.
But then you look at like Asian populations, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, they don't seem to have the rates of obesity that these islander populations do. And I don't know, but are they not eating? Are they eating that much more seed oils than
And
the
that's
Japanese?
and that's what we don't, and that's what we keep questioning. How is this happening? And
Yeah.
yet, but what we're seeing though in China and Japan and those areas,
Yeah.
their chronic disease rate is
Yeah.
skyrocketing. It's just huge.
Yeah.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
it's there's so much that we have to delve into, so much research, and that's the thing is we want to be able to afford to be able to go to these places and
Yeah.
run lab work, actually do lab work on them.
Yeah.
Test their
Yeah.
fecal matter, see what their microbiome
Yeah.
is, test everything, their adipose for LA,
Right.
all of these things, but it costs, I mean, right now we've asked the labs how much it would cost us to
Yeah.
do the labs for all these. There's millions just for the lab work, just to have the lab work done, millions of dollars. So we've just got to raise the money,
Right.
So then this is in Fiji. So this is a settlement that I found. It's called Visaisi. And it was about 2,000 years ago. This was the first settlement in Fiji. So I'm thinking, what am I going to find when I get there? So just before we get there, this is what we come upon, this beautiful ocean here. And if you look way out here, David,
Yeah.
there's a person standing right there. And he's getting all the mussels. He's getting like the oysters and the clams to eat. I thought, oh, can you imagine being able to do that? Oh, golly. So this is the village. You're looking down into it. So it's a little more contemporary now. It's not as, traditional as it was at the time. But it was beautiful there, quite beautiful. So I stopped. I'm talking with some of the ladies, and they were getting larger. They're definitely larger crowd compared to Vanuatu people. And I asked her, and I said, so, do you use seed oils? What do you cook with? And she said, oh, yes, we do. And she was smiling, And I said, well, what kind? And she said, mustard seed. I said, oh, mustard seed. Now, mustard seed, that's about a 12% LA. And I said, do you use any other kind? And she said, oh, yes, soybean. And she was very proud of the soybean. Again, I think because they're told that these are all heart healthy and these are great.
12% linoleic acid.
For mustard.
So that's not much higher than palm oil.
No, not at all. But I said, what do you think? Do you use it a lot? And she's like, no. So I asked my translator, I said, what do you think it would be? And he said, they're probably maybe 20% of their diet of the seed oils would be that. And the rest would be soybean. So.
Mustard oil versus soybean. Okay.
Yeah. So
80% is soybean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the worst. What's the linoleic acid percentage in soybean?
But 56.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the high ones. It's not the highest. They were doing the safflower and the sunflower. They're up in the 70s, not 72. Yeah. Wow. So this again was another little shacks, a little store. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to ask if I can go in this one because I don't see the barbed wire thing going on there. So I asked her if I could go in. And when I went in, she did. She had the wall of seed oils, and it had the canola, the soybean, there was some palm. And then I looked at the tinned fish, and the tinned fish had the soybean.
Yeah.
Then I asked if I could stop. I knew the Hindu temple was there. I wanted to see if I could speak with the priest that was there, the monk. And so I went in. And here he was, and he spent so much time with me. His name was Priest Deepak. And I asked him, I said, may I ask you what you eat in a day?
Right.
And he said, well, we're vegetarians, mostly close to vegan. And he said, I wake up in the morning and I'll have some warm water. That's to get my digestion going, just a little bit of warm water. And then he said, I will go, and I'm trying to think exactly what he said. Then he said, I'm going to go do my prayer, and then I will have an orange. And then he said, for lunch, I will have dal. And then he said, I will have some milk. That's the animal product that they will have is milk. And he said, and then in the evening, I will have more dal. And so it's plant-based, And
what's dal again? What is that?
Yeah. Dal. That's usually, I think it's like a lentil, if I recall. It's like a lentil, and it's very easy to digest because the hull has been taken off. And so when I was vegan, I used to eat that to soothe my digestive system, and it's quite lovely. It is quite lovely, but very easy to digest because it's a lot of the things that are difficult, they have been taken off, and just very mellow. And then like okra and things like that they'll have. And then he said, and then I think he has like a cup of tea, but it was very minimal. And I thought I would be starving. I would be starving. But he was my age. He was 60. I'm a little older than he is. And he was very fit, very youthful.
Which one is he there in the photo?
This is the priest right here.
The one, the yellow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. And but I very, very fit, very
Mhm.
sharp.
Yeah.
But again, they do have the dairy. They've got the milk, so that's a
Yeah,
key
that
key
helps, yeah.
component. It really is
There's a
big.
point for Ray Pete right there, Mr. Milk. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, I kept saying it's telling me everything. It was telling me everything. But again, I'm walking proof of it too. When I was vegan, I was dying. So and now I'm mostly meat-based and I feel bad.
Yeah.
And now this was the biggest wall of oil in all of the Pacific Islands. I walked in, and of course, I was on my own this day because Chris was sick. So I went on this day solo, and I was like, wow. And I thought, what am I going to see here? It was almost all soybean oil.
Wow.
Almost all of this over here is soybean. There was some canola, there was some safflower, but most of this is soybean. And then down at the end, there was a very small little bit of the mustard seed.
Wow.
But most of it was.
So the correlation trajectory is the more soybean oil, the more bigger the populations
Yes, absolutely. But that's at least what we came away with, because Samoa is mostly soybean and Fiji was mostly soybean. And what a difference. What a difference it made. So then again, my wrap up was the soybean oil. I was like, oh, but again, we have to remember, and people are always thinking that palm oil is so swell, but it's also destroying the planet. I mean, the world, their destruction that they're just, oh, it's awful what they're doing. Their destruction, where they're cutting trees down and just devastating regions and animals and so forth. There's nothing positive really. Turn back to ancestral eating with animal fats, butter, tallow, lard, if the lard is ancestrally raised.
And I bet they would love some butter from Joel Saladin's farm.
Oh, I tell you, or we've got some friends now who are completely now running. And I'll talk with you, Dave, if you want to talk about this. It's called Nutrients Cooperative, and it's amazing, by Ashley and Sarah Armstrong. And no, it's called Nourish Cooperative, and that's where I get all of my. I'm actually doing dairy for the first time in like 40 years now.
Yeah.
But I can only do sheep. It's raw sheep kefir, and it is.
And who got you into that? Sorry, I was reading all these.
It's all of our problems we had.
I started reading all this. I said, wait, what happened?
We'll talk about this first. I'll tell you about Nourish, where you can get the most ancestrally raised animals and products.
Wait, what got you into the dairy? Sorry, my audience probably heard you.
Because I just have been feeling, I know I'm going to go live with the Maasai.
Oh, okay. You're getting used to it. I got it.
I have to get can I handle this? I don't want to get sick when I get over there. So I had to slowly start thinking, what can I get myself going? So this is some of the things that happened. Everyone will say to me, oh my gosh, what a glamorous life you live.
This is like the end of the movie where it says, and what are they doing now? After the movie,
and so this is what happened when we were there. we weren't telling you as we were there.
This is the bloopers.
So this is really, it's not glamorous at all. When we go there, we're putting our lives at risk. And
for sure.
Because you don't know what diseases, they've got all different kinds of things. They told us a very good chance we could get scabies, which I thought, is this what's all on my legs? Oh, I gotta go back. Hold on. So what happened was, I'm still not sure. But it's almost exactly where the water touched me in the spring, in the salt spring, when I got in. So, and I'm highly allergic to plants, and could have been an algae that was in there that caused it.
Yeah.
Are there insects that gave it? And I'm so highly allergic to poison ivy. I did not see poison ivy where we were going, but nothing happened when I was in Wamena with the tribe, and I was eating. And here's another theory of mine: I was eating an extremely low histamine diet when I was there. And histamine, can cause reactions of things. But then as soon as I got to Honiara in Samoa, I was starting to pound down the meat. Now, the meat that I was going to be eating, I'm sure was aged, because any of the meat I eat is unaged, because I want to keep my histamines as low as possible.
Right. Okay.
And so I was eating a ton of meat. I mean, pounds a day, because I was starving. Yeah. And so I'm getting, and all of a sudden when I got there and started eating all this meat, my legs, I had red dots, but they weren't itching. And all of a sudden they spread like crazy. So was it the histamines that caused the reaction? And so that was I was on fire. And then here you see Chris trying to help me, because if I touched it, I would just start digging and digging, almost crying, because I was like, I'm never going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Wow. And he said, I'll just do it. I said, what if it's scabies? You're going to get scabies, And he goes, no, don't worry. He was just such a gentleman during that time. So with Chris, he hurt his knee. So he was out of commission for a bit while we were there. Then I had this lip on my skin, and then I know this is not attractive. My father would say, Suze, don't talk about it. It's not attractive, but because I have so many food allergies, I had ongoing diarrhea.
Wow.
and I lost 7 pounds. So I left here at 112. I'm 5'8" tall. I was 112, which is still thin for 100 for that height. And I got down to 105 by the time I came home. And but I've had this my whole life. I'm celiac and I have to deal with these issues. But because I was able to deal with it, I was still able to go and do everything because Chris couldn't on many occasions.
Mhm.
And so I was able to just hold it until I could find a bathroom and then go take care of what I had to do. Then he got a severe lung infection right towards the end. And that's when I had to go to Fiji and do everything there on that day alone. And then for me, on that day that had to do 5 different flights within 36 hours to go from Wamena to Honiara,
Yes.
the up and down and the cabin pressure, I lost the
Yeah.
hearing in my left ear. And but it's starting to come back now. So I'm hoping it'll be
Yeah,
okay.
I've always wanted to know about that. The things that happens to my ears sometimes on some flights, I'm like, this can't be healthy. Everybody's doing it, so you think, oh, it must have been vetted because millions of people are flying, but that can't be
No,
good on your ears, can it?
no, it's not. And there are some people who actually end up with permanent damage, actually end
Gosh,
up with the permanent hearing loss.
golly.
And so I wasn't sure if that was going to happen with me, but I prayed on it. And it's slowly coming back. I can still hear the popping. It's trying to, but I mean, it may not ever be perfect, but
On
it's.
that note, we're gonna have to land the plane here. Is there any other slides here?
Yes,
Yeah.
no, just really. So this is my next trip. Unless you
Yeah.
want to talk about it later, my next trip coming up, I'll be leaving the beginning of February. I want to stay the whole month if I can afford it, because I'm paying
Wow.
for it myself.
Well,
And
let's if you don't mind, maybe we can do it. Can we do another one with
oh, I
you
would
and I
love
on
to.
this? That way we can stop here for now and let
Yes.
people digest what you did, and we're gonna pick back up before you head off there, if you don't mind. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. And then real quickly, with Christmas and New Year's coming, our book is out and it's easy to find on Amazon.
That's a fantastic book. I
And
highly
the cheapest
recommend
way
it.
to go would be the full color ebook. It's really pennies to buy, really. And it's so beautifully done. It's one of the only ebooks that's ever been produced with
Yeah.
over 180 that are actually linkable. Usually you can't do that, but I found
Yeah.
a way to do it. And so that's a beautiful gift to give, or just for yourself. And again, there's our motto: seed oil free is the key to being disease free. There's our book. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, X, which was Twitter, or Instagram.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a YouTube channel that will have all of our videos
That's
from all
gonna be
of our
great. Yeah.
expeditions on. And you can find us again on webs at qamd.org and ancestralhealthfoundation.org. And if you want to ever donate to helping us with our investigations, expeditions, and research, you can donate right there on our donate page. But David, I love spending time with you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's very
you.
good. Can you close out the image real quick? So yeah, I mean, just let's land the plane here on this expedition. It's fascinating
So
stuff.
adorable.
And let's land the plane with some insights about takeaways. At first, we've just started our journey into TikTok. So I thought, for our TikTok fans and Instagram fans, tell us some health and beauty tips, some quick little takeaways that you learned from those indigenous communities. What are some takeaway points maybe that'll help our friends on TikTok? Any thoughts?
Okay, guys, to me, for health and beauty, if you want to age gracefully and slowly, we need to have meat. I was vegan. Veganism is going to take a toll on your body. We have to have the most important thing I think we need to have is we have to have the fat soluble vitamins A, D, K. K2, not K1. K1 is plethora in plants, but we need K2. And that's for our teeth and also to help us to absorb calciums and so forth in our bones, for our skin, our hair, the collagen that we have that we can get in animal products. We need it. And we saw this between the tribes. Those who are more plant-based are aging and they have some difficulty, but those who have a plethora of animal products and so forth, they're just pristine. And that was really the most important thing. But seed oils, we have to get rid of them. Processed food, we have to get rid of
Is it
them.
okay to put seed oils on your skin for
Guess
aging?
what? Guess what I use?
What's that?
That's all I use. And I only had for most of my life. I do not use soap on my skin. I
But
wash.
you use seed oils?
I use argan oil. It's from
Wow.
Africa.
Okay.
And it's got triple the amount of vitamin E.
But don't put soybean oil on your skin.
No,
Yeah.
no. I use it's argan oil, and they call it liquid gold. And the women in Africa put this on their skin and their hair.
Okay.
And I wash my face with it, and I moisturize. And that's all I put on my skin. I don't put any makeup on my skin. I just put eyeliner on. That's all I put. I don't put anything else. And there's so much vitamin E and squalene in this, in natural, that they make it right there. The women use it. It's not processed. They do it all handmade, all hand squeezed and pressed. And that to me is, and here's another thing, David. I've tried to put tallow, I've tried to put all those things on my skin, and I break out horribly. It's in the comedogenic in terms of causing, it's a 2. Argan oil's 0. It does, there's no, you won't have any skin reaction to it. So for me, that just kind of shows that everyone's different, and it's the same thing with food. You know, what works for me may not work for somebody else. I'm not completely carnivore. I can't be completely carnivore, but I'm probably 90% meat-based, because I don't want to take supplements. I want to live where God created me, and God created me to eat from the land.
What about coconut oil? Do they put coconut oil on their skin in Samoa?
Yes, it's all of them. Coconut oil in their hair and on their skin. Coconut oil breaks me out. It's a 2
Men
again.
and women, or just women do that?
Everyone.
Yeah.
They all the men.
And that's in all the islands, or just some of them?
All the islands. They were all talking. That was one of my big questions. And what do you use on your skin and your hair? And they all think coconut oil.
So another health and beauty tip: smoking vociferously if you can get the real plants, right? Would you say?
If you're going to be a smoker, if you have to smoke and you can't quit it, if you can roll your own, I think you're probably better off, because you're not going to get there's like over 1,000 chemicals, I think, that I researched one time that is actually placed inside of the cigarettes that are sold.
Sleeping tips. Any sleeping tips that the islanders taught for our
what I learned from there is, of course, I think the more minerals that we have in our diet, I think that better we're sleep. And I think the less time we are around EMFs, because there was nothing around where we were. And I will find this when I go to Africa. The more I'm going to be out in the remote lands of Africa, will I sleep, even though I'm going to be sleeping on the ground, and where there's going to, who know what's going to be crawling all over me. Maybe I'll sleep really well there too. So I think, I think the more ancestrally we live, more back to the nature. And
walking without shoes, another tip.
Absolutely. I do it every day. And even when there's snow.
Yeah, so you're a lot more well-adjusted for these expeditions than the average person, because
I've been doing it my whole life. Remember, my grandmother lived with natives for.
So this is kind of preparing your whole life for this. So, but folks who say, well, what about getting hookworm or something when you walk barefooted? Tell us a little bit about that.
I've heard so many people say that, you know what, guys, if we live our life worried about what we're going to get, then we're going to have no life. And I've been walking barefoot most of my life. And I'm talking in all realms of the world. And I have never, knock on wood, I have never gotten anything on my feet or of that kind of nature. Yes, I will get poison ivy. Yes, I get those things because I'm allergic to them. But I have friends who can roll in poison ivy and they don't get it. Again, we're all unique. We're all different,
Gender differentiation. Are the genders differentiated in those different island communities, the indigenous communities?
Very interesting. Most of them, the men can have as many wives as they want if they can afford it, because
that's all the different communities, or just one or two?
Most of them. The Vanuatu, they were not. They were more monogamous. But most of the other tribes, and I'm finding that way in Africa as well, that the men, that's considered how they show their wealth, is the more women they have and the more children they have, the wealthier they are. But also because they however many pigs or whatever they have to give, some people give the cows, but most of them are giving the pigs. So the number of pigs that you give for a woman, that's the wealth that you are. But many of them look at their wives and their children as a form of wealth.
And these indigenous communities, do they assign a gender at birth, as we are told?
You are what God designed you as, and that's what it is.
I mean, is that what they believe too? I know what your thoughts are, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, because I never brought it up, because to me, I don't even think about it. But I will ask that when I go to Africa. I will ask each of the tribes, and I'm sure they're gonna look at me like, what? But I think that will be an interesting question to ask.
What did you learn about America that you didn't understand about America until you went to these different communities? Just one thing that comes to mind.
There's a lot of things that come to mind. It's that we've lost in touch with what being a human is. And that's my goal, is to re-educate, and that hopefully everyone will watch my videos from all the places I travel to, and we'll see what it's like to be a human. And we're all locked in cages. We're in our offices, in front of our screens, on our phones, and we're locked in these cages. And we have to break open, and we have
Yeah.
to get back to being human and living. And you will be amazed at how different you will feel. And it's a whole awakening. And I think that
Do you have, like, in summary, 5 takeaway lifestyle guides for being human after, you know, that you learned or reinforced while going into these different indigenous communities?
oh, you're getting fast on this one.
Yeah.
For me, I think to know what being a human is and to be living naturally and ancestrally, I think that we have to, again, number one, get away from our screens because
Yeah.
it's taking a toll. Number two, we have to eat ancestrally. We have to get rid of processed food and seed oils. We have to. Number two, sleep is vital. It is so important. And the time that we get up in the morning and the time we go to bed at night. So we rise with the sun and we settle in as the setting sun. And we need to be able to reset our circadian rhythm and all those things. That's another best. Number three. Number four, family. Family time was huge in these regions, that being around their communities, their bonding. Oh, there's so many stories I could tell you about how the women cut their fingers off when someone dies.
Oh, wow.
And it's the symbol of the loss that they have,
Yeah.
but the loss the community is going to have by not
They take the
having
whole finger, huh? Not even a
part of it.
tip.
And
Oh.
I have a couple pictures of one I should show you. Oh, David, there's so much I want to tell you. There's so much I want to share with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And then, but number five, I'm going to leave for the most important. Having your Holy Spirit, your God at your center of your life. And he is the driving force. And to see that throughout the islands, David, it was so beautiful. I felt so happy that he's there and that they embrace him. And it was just beautiful. So
Well, that's fantastic. And it looks like you guys are doing wonderful work. And did a wonderful presentation. So thank you. And we'll leave it here for now. And when we pick up with you, we're going to talk about your next expedition, which is in Africa. So stay tuned for that, folks. And check out their book. And it's available at all the different places. Amazon, right? Barnes and Noble. Are you guys on Barnes and Noble?
Yeah.
And
all online books.
and pick it up. It's a great book. And if you already understand seed oils, still buy it, and also buy one for your family members who are sick and ill or have issues that they need it, because everybody knows somebody. So please do that. And in the meantime, we'll talk again soon. And you can email us hello@aneighborschoice.com. That's hello@aneighborschoice.com. I'm David Gornoski. Godspeed.